Hello everyone, welcome to Java tutorials. In this video, we will see about some introduction of basic concepts like network, internet, and platform dependency. So let's start understanding the basic concepts of a network at a high level. So what exactly is a network? A network is an interconnection of two or more systems. So if the systems are connected in a network, we can share the data, files, resources, and so on among these systems on the network. So let's understand this with a simple example. Let's assume that I want to copy some data from my friend and assume that our systems are not connected in a network. So in this scenario, I can take my hard drive, go to my friend's place, load all the data that I want from my friend and bring my hard drive and load the data onto my machine. But this scenario might not work well if my friend is far away. Now let's assume that our systems are connected in a network. Irrespective of wherever my friend is, we can share the data via a network drive or a shared location. So this is one of the biggest advantages of a network. So in a network, in general, we hear two common terms called a client and a server. So a client in this scenario is someone who is requesting the data, which means I'm requesting some data from my friend. So my machine becomes a client and my friend's machine, which is sharing some data on a network drive or a folder, it becomes a server. So client is someone who is requesting for some data and a server is someone who is responding back to that request. Now let's go one step ahead and think of a bigger network called internet. When we say internet, we see different types of machines with different operating systems and processors connected across one another. Around 1990s, when internet is booming up, people started creating programs and applications using existing programming languages like C and C++ and started sharing them on the internet so that anyone on the network can access them or download them and can use it. Now let's understand the scenario of a simple program written in a C programming language which is developed on a Windows machine and shared on a network. Maybe if you have known or if you have practiced C programming language, so anytime we create a program, we store the program in a .c extension file, and from the .c extension we compile and create a .obj file and then create a .exe file which is an executable file. So since I'm using a Windows machine with a specific processor like an Intel Pentium processor, the executable file that I have created will run on my machine because I am the one who is creating the .exe file, and then I would like to share my program on the internet so that others can download, access and use it. So once it is shared on the network, let's assume that someone who is using the same Windows machine, they are trying to download the .exe file. Once they are downloading the .exe file, they can run the executable file on their machine and they can execute and run the program. But let's assume that someone who is using a Linux or a Mac operating system are trying to download this executable file. But even though if they are able to download the executable file because of the network, they cannot really use the .exe files or execute those .exe files on their operating systems or on their machines. Why? Why? Because When we create a .exe file on a Windows operating system with a specific processor like anything, a Pentium processor or anything, the .exe file which is generated on this machine contains the entire program in machine language instructions that can be understood by a specific processor. Since every processor has a different instruction set that other processors may not be able to understand, the exe file may not work on other processors. Also, when an operating system tries to execute this .exe file, the operating system has a specific data and instructions in a different format when compared to other operating systems. So these instructions cannot be executed on different operating systems. By looking at this scenario, we see that even though data sharing is possible because of network, not everything shared on the network is reusable. So what went wrong here? So during the early 1990s, the programming languages out there are not intended for developing internet-based applications since they are platform dependent. So people thought of developing programming language to overcome these scenarios. So in our next video, we will try to understand if we can find a solution to overcome these scenarios. Hope you like this video and happy learning.